Hello everyone and welcome to episode 9 of Podcast The Five Rings, your source of enlightenment in the realm of video games, tabletop, anime, film, and tech. Each episode of Podcast The Five Rings releases Monday mornings on iTunes and Soundcloud, now topic by topic, day by day on YouTube, with the full video releasing on Friday. To catch updates about the podcast or for other news, give us a follow on your social media platform of choice listed in the description below. I'm your host, GM, and overseer of Podcast The Five Rings Obsidian, joined today by the wall that will not fall, Tetsuo.
How's everyone doing?
Mr. Airborne Sniffles.
Yep.
Apparently, an Oni can't crush the wall, but the common cold.
Yeah.
It's all the Shadowlands needed to do. Just spread airborne viruses.
Yep.
The resident wildcard now.
Hello. I'm just here sitting in no AC.
Like I said, man, you and me both.
Pretty unbearable.
I will gladly take the cold over the noise.
Dude, for real, anytime. Like, I hate spring and summer.
Well, I meant cold as a sickness cold, but that too.
What is best season?
I used to like winter more, but now I lean more towards fall.
Yeah, fall, man.
Yeah.
Well, you guys don't even really have seasons, so...
True.
It doesn't matter for you. It's like a different one every time here. And not joined today by the Dark Fortune Duelist meta. He had an issue come up and he is not able to attend this week. He should be back next week though, so. What have you guys been doing this week other than being sick on your end, Tets?
The real answer is playing with more Gunpla, but beyond that, not really much.
What about you, Mal?
Oh, just video games, and then I also blame Tets because I've been building Gunpla every here and there.
It must be a Florida thing. Yeah, I've just never been big on models and stuff like that. I mean, I guess I never got into war games either, really, so that probably didn't help me push me in that hobby direction. But
I just like to zone out and just do something with my hands.
What's something to do while you're watching stuff on TV or whatever?
Yeah. Or on a podcast, or...
Exactly. I've been doing a lot of stuff. We're trying to finish our game. I've been writing a little bit. I've been catching up on Tales of Berseria, which I've been enjoying. The game has picked up a little bit in what seems like the second act of it, so I'm a little bit more high on it than I was initially. After Mal clears his backlog of immediate games, he could maybe get to that eventually since he bought it while it was on sale.
Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. You too can play as a cute werewolf chick and be a demon and stuff. On that note, let's get to our first topic, which is the L5R stream and the new Bonsai article. Earlier today on Facebook, FFG had a semi-live stream, a Facebook Live video feed that they did. This stream they had actually had a lot more details in it than the new article did. The article was more just kind of like a sample conflict phase between, this one involves a military one, so we'll talk about the stream first. As more of the juicy deets. So the first thing they said was that L5R LCG is a two-player game. They specifically said two-player, no multiplayer, at least in the core set. When someone asked them directly, they said, we can't talk about it yet.
Yeah, if that'll ever come up. But it really sounds like it's just something they have for later plans.
Yeah. I'd imagine some kind of set similar to the, Siege stuff that came out towards the end of AEG's run.
Yeah, and Clan Wars.
Yeah.
What I liked about those is that it was co-op, and there was obviously the actual multiplayer, 2 versus 2 L5R2. I mean, apparently people like it because people ask for it all the time. I wasn't a big fan because, I played Honor. If you played Honor in that format, you usually got ganged up on by everyone.
Yeah, I don't know how multiplayer would work with this new Honor cards draw stuff.
Yeah, that's probably why they're probably just R&Ding it and seeing if they can even make it feasible with the new rules, is what I'm assuming. Yeah, who knows? Maybe they'll have, for the first expansion set, like the bigger box, they'll have some rules for it by then, but that's probably not.
They did mention that they're already well into the first expansion.
That means they got the first couple of packs done then.
Possibly. I mean, yeah. If they got to do one a month, they're going to be on that.
Yeah, those would obviously have to be done by now, because with FFG, you have the little packs that are 15 or 20 cards. Those are ones that come out every month. And then I think like
is
two
it
more
only that
times.
big?
Yeah, and then like 2 more times a year, you'll have the big box of like 100 more cards or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's probably when they'll add Shadowlands or
they did
Mantis
say
if they do Mantis.
They could introduce new factions during that time, way back when.
Yeah, I bet if they keep with the kind of bare bones skeleton of the Clan War area in Scorpion Coup, it'll be Shadowlands. They've really avoided kind of talk about the Mantis in some of the minor clans.
Yeah.
Well, but they've also so far managed to avoid talking about a lot of the lore just in general. So
Yeah.
Another thing they mentioned in the stream was that all prior AEG fiction or lore is not canon, because the question was mainly targeted towards what happened before the Scorpion Coup, if any of that was still canon. They said they will draw from it if necessary, but nothing's canon now.
Yep, so the history is going to be completely different as we know it.
Yeah, could be.
Could be.
Pretty similar too. They said to overanalyze the fictions.
Yeah, speaking of the fictions, we're getting our first one next week too.
Oh yeah,
which I'm excited about.
Is it Crab? No.
We don't know. That's the clan focus. We'll get to that in a little bit, but
I thought the clan focus was the fictions.
Nope. Well, they might do fictions with that too. I mean, who knows? But they just said that the first fictions are going to come out next week.
All right. I misunderstood.
Then, I mean, I guess sort of fiction-y related or lore related. They said that there are plenty of other places outside of Rokugan that they could potentially explore at a later date.
Oh, I hope they don't. We already kind of talked about the lands outside of Rokugan a little bit on our dislikes topic.
Well, so I will addendum that by saying if the other lands are still heavily Asian inspired, I'm okay with that. China versus Japan type deal, I'd be cool with that. But I don't really want to see more Arabian Nights and Indian.
I'm fine if there's like I'm fine if there's a few personalities and stuff. I just don't want like a story arc focus on it again. Really,
exactly.
At least not right now. Since
they
we
said
just
later.
got that.
I imagine at some point they're going to want to do something more radically different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if they want to focus as much on diversity as they did. Say
many years away.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
And I'm sure it'll still always be true that you can always pick and choose. So.
Yeah, the core set should always be legal. So.
Yeah, it's gonna have. You'll probably get cards that get errated or banned or stuff. I'm sure, but they'll have that base like evergreen is I think the word they use. Another mechanic they kind of explained a little bit was influence. Your stronghold has a certain amount of influence, and cards have the little scroll with the number on them that you can include in the deck. So I think I saw one of the strongholds had 10, so that means you'd be able to put up to 10 influence worth of...
I think we've seen like 1 to 3 influence on cards.
Yeah. So those are only involved with your conflict deck, and the way they described it was the Dynasty deck, basically, it represents more of the pure what your clan is. It's like big personalities, it's holdings, that stuff. The conflict deck, again, is kind of like your tricks. You can put your the conflict out of clan personalities or what are going to go in the conflict deck, and say your Dynasty deck which is how it used to be, since all personalities in the CCG relegated to the Dynasty deck. It kind of represents you having like a secret alliance that your opponent didn't know about. And I kind of think that fits well with the theme they're going for of the whole conflict deck being the tricks up your sleeve kind of thing.
Yeah, they also pointedly mentioned that it's one clan you're aligning with. So it sounds like you might only be able to choose one clan and choose to include personalities from that, not all of them.
Yeah, they'll have to elaborate on that a little bit in the future.
Looking forward to seeing how that might work with my Pincer Alliance.
Crab and Scorpion forever, huh?
Yep.
Okay, they also said that the first storyline prize is going to be at Gen Con. I don't think that's really a big surprise to anyone. It was just an actual confirmation that we got. Yeah,
they sounded pretty excited, and they said they will reveal what it actually is closer to Gen Con.
Yep. So we'll have to wait and see on that. We also got more details about characters with dashes for a skill. Basically, if there's a way for your character who has a dash to get involved in a conflict that they have the dash in, like say I have the Matsu Berserker, and somehow my opponent tries to harpoon the Matsu Berserker into the battle, the character immediately bows and gets sent home. So they just can't participate, which
yeah.
that still might be a viable strategy for to use against your opponent. Say that you politically attack them first, you harpoon in the Matsu Berserker, it bows and sends home, so then it can't declare for any military conflicts.
Yeah, I was going to say it's another way to bow your opponent's guys.
That's what I like about it, is the kind of strategy that you can use in that way, more so than, just obvious that they can't assign. Well, it's like they can assign, but this just happens, and it becomes another way for you to interact with your opponent. So I don't know, that was really neat. And it just kind of answers the question that people had about those characters somehow getting involved in the battles. I'm guessing that they're not going to be able to add skill from attachments either. Like if
Probably not.
Because the way they described it was this character just wasn't trained how to fight, basically. So if you give them a sword, they're not going to know how to use it.
Yep.
They also talked about mulligans. This was something they were kind of unclear on in their description. Obviously, you can discard cards out of your dynasty, just like the old game, and refill them face down. But in the first turn in the old game, you could do it and flip them back face up, but only on the first turn. And you would do that during your limited phase instead of at the end of the turn. You can also do this with cards in your hand, which is similar to the starting holdings you had in Emperor Edition. I believe there's Bamboo Harvesters. I think the experience version let you put 3 cards back and draw 3 more or something like that, so you could kind of mulligan part of your hand. They didn't explain if this was all only on the first turn.
I don't see how it couldn't be.
If it's not, being able to get rid of your cards constantly is going to be really good.
I think mulligans usually only refer to the first hand.
Yeah. I would hope so, at least for that, because otherwise I'm just never going to bid honor, and I'm just going to keep mulliganing away the stuff that I don't need.
Yeah, there's no way they'll do that, I think.
Yeah, they can't. Okay, they elaborate a little bit more on Fate, an engine, an economic engine for your deck. There's not a way to directly impact your per turn production. Basically, all you get is what's on your stronghold every turn. However, there are ways, like action cards or certain personalities or stuff you get into play, will have ways to manipulate Fate. So there's obviously if you pass first, you get the additional Fate for next turn.
There's the Fate on the unclaimed rings.
Yep, and there's going to be a way to put additional Fate on your characters that are already in play or attachments, things like that. So that's basically going to be the quote-unquote economy of the game, kind of. You're always going to have your base thing, so you never have to worry about getting gold screwed like the old game, or gold flooded.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if all of them will have the same starting Fate or not, because I think we've only seen the 2 strongholds and they had the same 7 Fate, I think.
I think all we've seen so far is Crane and Line.
Yeah.
I bet once they start rolling out these clan previews, that's when we're going to see probably the Stronghold, maybe the clan champions. So.
Oh, yeah.
Then obviously talk about the lore around some of the personalities and all that good stuff. So I don't know. I think that's pretty interesting, and it's gonna let everybody actually play a game with L5R, and especially in old L5R where there wasn't best 2 out of 3. If you got gold screwed, you got gold screwed, and you just lost for the round because the games took so long.
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
And I think all the FFG stuff in tournaments are 2 out of 3, no matter what.
Oh, good.
So yeah, it just keeps it makes it to where everybody can have fun and play the game. So I'm all for it. I like it. You have to be a little bit more tactical with how you want to manipulate your fate. All right, we already talked about the first fiction coming out next week. They also said that it'll be a combination of stuff we get in the product, telling a story, and that's going to complement the stuff that we get online. So it's still going to have online fictions. Basically same old L5R. We just don't know the exact volume yet. Something else they talked about was that bowed cards still get to use their ability. Obviously, if the cost of performing the action is bowing the character, you can't bow them if they're already bowed. But this is a big departure from the old game, and probably one that people are going to have to get a little bit used to. It makes cards a lot more powerful. It makes bowing, obviously, a lot less powerful. Basically, all it's going to do now is keep your opponent from adding skill or assigning to battlefields. Unless
their action has that has to be bowed as part of it.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. So if you have to bow to pay a cost, then you can't do it, obviously, if you're bowed already. So yeah, that I've already seen people say they don't like it on forums.
Well, I mean that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess we'll have to see the power level really how it comes across.
Yeah.
Obviously, broken provinces cannot be reattacked. I think everyone assumed that they just clarified it. Someone asked it.
Right.
You can't stall the
They-
game out by going
yeah.
after the same province over and over
They want
again.
the game to keep progressing.
Yeah. There's no limit to the amount of fate you can invest on one card. The only limit you have is how much fate you have available. So if you want to spend all your 7 fate on the first turn on one guy,
Yeah, I doubt that will be optimal.
no, probably not. The guy's going to get
But if you
discarded and you're
want
going to be
to.
sad. You're also going to want to defend against all these multiple conflicts, and having one guy is not really going to help you, but there might be times where you want to, so just something that they clarified on. Rings are either contested, unclaimed, or claimed. Those are the 3 phases of rings. Obviously, we're going to have card abilities that react off what phase the ring is. They just clarified that. Abilities can happen away from conflict, but most will have some kind of exception to the wording that requires them to be present. Most of the Bushi and Courtier that you're going to attack provinces with, they'll say something like, at this battlefield's province, or a character in this battle, or something like that. But they also said that Shugenja are going to have less and less of that restriction. So they're going to have more of the home battle kind of actions.
Yeah, they wanted that to show off the magic of the Shugenja, that they can influence it from far away.
I'm telling you, man, they just want me to play Phoenix. They just keep pushing me in that direction. I mean, it's going to be interactive, obviously. You're going to manipulate the way the battlefield happens, but just there's a lot less cost if you can keep your guy at home, not have to send them, then have the personality bow, and then so you could use it as ability to affect one battlefield, and then when your opponent attacks you politically or you want a military swing, they'll still be available to do that. So it's basically like a play it safe kind of thing, and it just screams defensive. So I like that a lot. We already kind of talked about the clan spotlights. They said they're going to do one every other week. Craner first. No alphabetical order. Suck it, crab.
Crab Rob.
Rob.
Clickety clack. Watch, I bet they'll do Scorpion next after that.
No.
I'm okay with that.
I would actually like to see not Lion and Crane first, just so we can see more of the stuff from the other clans.
We're already getting Crane first.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like, hypothetically. I'd want to see Unicorn first, actually, because we've seen the less of what they can do.
No, I agree with that, but they also want to show off more traditional clans for newbies,
Yeah.
new players.
Fair enough. I mean, I understand it. I'm more saying, I guess, like, holistically, I would rather see
Yeah.
them, just since we've seen more of the other stuff.
I mean, it's every other week, so...
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be recent. We're not going to have to wait that long. I'm surprised they're doing it so fast. I think we talked about it last week or the week before, that, or at least I said, I think that I thought it was going to be closer to Gen Con.
I thought it was going to come sooner than later, because it's
Yeah.
such a big part of the what clan are you?
Yep, and they apparently agree with you, Mal, so
Because I am correct.
chalk one up to you. The biggest thing they kind of talked about was dueling. So here's how dueling is going to work now. Cards are going to initiate duels. That's really no different. You're probably going to have personalities that have an effect that creates a duel, conflict cards in your hand, maybe events and stuff that come out of your Dynasty deck. So you're going to start a duel between 2 personalities. Duels are either going to be military or political. Your dueling stat is whatever skill the duel revolves around. Instead of having a focus pool of cards from your hand or from your conflict deck, and there being a focus value involved on each card, a kind of a more complicated mechanic in the old game, you're now just going to bid with your honor dial, and you're going to add whatever number you bid to your dueling skill. The higher total wins. If you bid lower than your opponent, then you get to take honor away from them equal to the difference.
Yeah, it's like the draw mechanic.
But you have to win to take the honor, correct?
No.
No, you don't necessarily have to win.
Oh, okay.
Just
So-
whoever bids the lower gets the higher for that part.
So if you bid 1, he bids 4. Even if you win or lose, you get 3 honor.
Yeah.
And you take it from your opponent, which is also big. So they said it's basically kind of you use your tricks to get ahead in the duel.
I saw someone on the forum mention that it's when you someone with less skill has to be more dishonorable to win, because if you have a higher skill total, you don't need to sacrifice as much honor, obviously, right? You don't even have to, if a level, if someone with 6 skill fights a level 1 person, they don't have to
They have
sacrifice any,
minimum
the level 1 guy is going to have to be pretty dishonorable to beat that guy.
Yeah, and I was saying this in chat earlier. I think if you're honor and you're dueling, so praying, more than likely, you're going to be bully doing people. If you're like a 4 political skill, you're going to want to find people with 1s. Those are going to be the people you challenge. You want to kind of bid low. So then you don't even really care necessarily about losing. Unless like the effects are really good.
Cards.
Yeah, we're going to have to see the cards, obviously. But I mean, this is all hypothetical. But if you care about honor, you're obviously going to want to bid lower and use your characters with more high skill to compensate. So then your opponent has to choose, do I want him to gain the honor and go for the win, or do I just want to give him the win?
I'm kind of liking the honor betting stuff for like the mind game stuff that can go on.
Yeah, it's fun. It's good that they incorporate it all together because, again, it just makes the game simpler.
Right.
And
cut down on that time.
It's easier to design. There's less of a learning curve for newer people. That's anytime I see something new and they're talking about the way they've condensed the game, I think their goal is just to obviously get rid of the snowball, cut down big on the learning curve, and make it more easier for everyone to understand. There's not all these random mechanics. Cards don't have like 4 or 5 numbers on them that I have to know what every one of them does.
You said before, you could only play 1 game before. Now, like best 2 out of 3 is a big improvement.
I like it. I want to see some dual cards. We might see some when the Crane stuff previews. Maybe we'll have to wait till Dragon.
Quite likely. Yeah. Someone asked which is better, Kakita or
Miyamoto.
Yeah.
They wouldn't answer.
What did they say? No.
Nope. Said you'll have to find out for yourself in playing.
Wah wah. Just tell us your bosses. They also said that they're going to have lots of tourneys and panels at Gen Con, so you can go up and talk to Katrina, or I can't remember the guys who actually designed the game's name. They said they'll be around. You can come up and ask them questions. They're going to have a pre-release tourney, obviously. They'll probably have an actual like last day event or Saturday event. That'll be probably the big storyline thing, I imagine.
Yeah, I wish I could go to Gen Con.
Yeah.
I'll have to have fun for the both of you.
Yep.
That was the big stuff out of the stream. We're going to move on to the article, which was titled Bonsai. So the Bonsai article gave us an example conflict between a Dragon and Phoenix player. Kind of had to, other than getting like some new cards and stuff, the article didn't really give us a whole lot of meat to chew on. Your province is going to reveal as soon as the attacker is assigned to the province. You don't know beforehand what the province strength you're going up against is. If you know the deck you're playing against, you're probably going to have a good idea, but there's no, well, I know this is 4 province strength. I have to send this many guys. It makes attacking a little bit rougher.
Mm-hmm.
Defender gets first action, so that's the same as the old game. They said some stuff on that. I don't remember exactly what it was, though. I think they said they tested both.
And the game favors being aggressive, so they kind of wanted to balance that out by giving the defender first action to put more risk on the attacker.
So you really have to think about the resources you're committing to any battle, just like the old game. So that's just another way that it is kind of the mashing of the two. They want to keep some of the familiar
They even said
stuff.
that they really started with the AEG game, not from scratch, but they started with that and then, see what fit, see what they wanted to cut. And
go from there.
Yep.
Okay, Honored is now a spectrum, kind of like I was referring to back when I was talking about rings. So personalities are now dishonored, neutral, or honored. If you're honored and you're dishonored, you don't go straight to dishonored. So if I have a guy who's 3 military skill, he's honored, he has 1 glory, so he's a 4 military skill. If he gets dishonored, he doesn't just lose 2 skill and go to 2. He goes back to normal state, so he's a 3. I like this a lot. Because it's not completely swing. If you're going to tie glory into your skill with the honor mechanic, it's too swingy if there were just the 2 states. Or if you could go from one to the spectrum to the other, opposite end.
Yeah.
It would completely screw line, because if they're all going to be high glory, we need to honor our guys, then they're going to suffer a lot from playing against dishonor. At the same time, Scorpion's going to suffer a little bit against people who can honor themselves. They're not going to get as good mileage because it's going to be so swingy.
Well, but I mean, that flavor-wise, that makes sense. I mean,
what, like the going from one spectrum to the other?
Well, specifically that the Scorpion would struggle to fight somebody who is highly honorable because their whole thing is dishonoring people. So if everyone is going to believe that this person's really honorable, they're going to have a hard time dishonoring them. Like, flavor-wise, like, it makes sense that the Lion would also struggle against the Scorpion because...
Okay, yeah, I got you. I see what you're saying. Although I do think that Scorpio don't really have that much problems, or at least in the old story, kind of slandering people, getting the upper hand.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that spectrum a lot. If the attacker breaks a province, you get to choose whether you discard the card or leave it in the province. It's just a way to keep your opponent's provinces gummed up if you want. Obviously, since they keep the resource, they don't lose the extra card of production. That's kind of a way to keep it to where, they don't need that other copy of their generic person. They need this guy, so I'm just going to leave the card there.
Yeah, but the broken provinces discard automatically at end of turn.
Yeah, that's true. Then why would they make such a big mention of that?
I don't know.
Does it refill face up, maybe?
I don't
Well, you've already bought your guys, too, by that point, by the conflicts phase. You've already purchased your characters.
I guess if you win, you choose to discard it, it leaves and another one comes into play, and then at end of turn, the one that was just put there would leave and come back, and a new one would fill.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like milling, I guess, a little bit, or like,
but then why would
discard, but
why would you ever choose not to then?
I don't know.
Maybe there will be card effects based on stuff that's in certain
provinces. I wouldn't be surprised if Lion could pull from the Dynasty deck later, because they seem to be pretty Dynasty deck flavored.
Or if there's reserved cards, maybe, to borrow a turn from the old game. So maybe I could buy a guy out of my province in the middle of battle.
Right.
So maybe there'll be ways for your cards that are in your provinces to interact in the other phases of the game. I don't know. That's the only way I could think why they would make that distinction if the guy's going to get discarded anyways. We got a new keyword for certain attachments. Stuff like the Fine Katana has the restricted. I think they called it trait, not keyword.
I missed it, whatever they said.
Yeah, restricted is you can have no more than 2 of that card on one character. So I guess everyone's a Kensei now.
Has the possibility, at least.
Yeah. If you can, or can you just keep stacking Katana on your one guy?
You got Zoro over here from One Piece.
Yeah, he just wears his swords on his back or whatever.
One in his mouth.
Yep. Yeah, that's weird. I don't know. You think that they would just be like the old... Because, it makes sense that you can only realistically use 2 weapons at once at the most. Stuff like armor, obviously, you can... In the old game, you could wear armor, have a random odd attachment.
I think it'll probably come down to a more gameplay beats flavor in this one aspect.
Yeah.
I think they wanted to cut down on all the different keywords or whatever they're calling it.
And generally, loading up one guy is really bad anyways.
Yeah, especially since they're only going to stick around for a few turns.
Yep. So there's no guarantee they're going to be there the rest of the game.
Yep.
Unless you invested heavily on their fate. So, I don't know.
And then they get pacified.
Yep, exactly. And they just fade out of existence. Alright, we got spells now. We saw our first spell card in action, which was Cloud the Mind. It was an air spell for 1 fate that you attach to one of your opponent's characters. Play only if you have a Shugenja, so obviously still you have to have your Shugenja to use spells. Treat the character that it's attached to as if its printed text box are blank, except for its traits. So this is where I gathered they were probably calling traits, or what were keywords traits now.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, neat little spell. Spells are still attachments. They're not just actions you play, which is what I was thinking that they might do with the game.
You defecting over to Phoenix means you'll see a lot of them.
We haven't made that decision yet, Mal. We're just heavily leaning in that direction. I'll reserve my judgment to pick after I've seen all the cards, sir.
Nope, you gotta pick now.
Oh, okay. Well, crap. I'm screwed. I mean, that's basically kind of all the meat that we got out of the article. Other than that, it was a sample of battle. I encourage you to go read it and check it out if you want to see how it works. Feels very Ivory to me, where it's obviously not these big swingy effects for the most part. It's a little, I give my guy some force. You battle my character. I do this back and forth. And it was cool to see the Phoenix and Dragon interact in the battle, because I think they're 2 of the most flavorful clans we've seen so far mechanically. So
yeah, I agree.
So it's cool to see them fight against each other. Did you guys have any favorite cards you saw out of the new article that you really liked?
Nothing super stood out, but again, it was mostly Dragon and Phoenix, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to echo that sentiment.
One card that looks really powerful is Bonsai. Maybe that's why they added, or they made that the name of the article.
Right.
It's a 0 cost, or 0 fate cost, As an action during a conflict, you choose a participating character. The character gets +2 military strength until the end of the conflict. You may lose 1 honor to resolve this ability twice. That's super powerful and basically what won the Dragon Player of the conflict in the game.
Right.
Just want to say
Seems
that.
Pretty good for maybe Crab.
It's neutral. It's going to be played in every deck that cares about military, I guarantee it.
Right. Not in Honor.
I bet Honor decks will still play it too.
Yeah.
It's only
Might
one Honor.
Just be that powerful. True.
I was going to say, yeah, you'll have a large pool of honor from which to draw from to power it.
Maybe not Crane and Phoenix if they don't... Crane Scorpion, I mean, if they don't have as many military-based personalities, but who knows? There could be a political version of it too, you never know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that card stood out to me a lot. Also, just really like Shiba Peacemaker.
The Defender guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a 1 fate cost, 4 military, 1 political, Bushi, has 1 glory. Character cannot participate in conflicts as an attacker. You know what he screams to me? Defensive dueling. He's got that 4 military strength. It's the perfect bully dealer. Pick on them cranes.
Who's better, Kakita or Miyamoto? Nope, it's Shiba.
Shiba.
Yeah. I mean, if you're rank 5, right?
It makes sense in the RPG too, kind of, honestly.
Right. Well, yeah, I are rank 5 Shiba wreck.
Yeah. Also, just something that I noticed, and this is also just good design, I think, especially compared to the old game. So when we get these honor versus honor, or honor versus dishonor, or dishonor versus dishonor mirrors, and stuff like that, now that the game is interactive, because they basically said, you know, if you want to win honor, you can't completely ignore going to battles. You can't just always stay at home. You're going to have to do some stuff at the battlefield, or else it's going to be really hard to get to 25 or to get your opponent to 0, right?
Yep.
In the old game, if it was honor versus dishonor, the games almost always went to time. It was very just, you know, I'm hovering around 5 or something. You get me down like 10 honor, I get back up like 10 more, and then we have to like roll.
Yeah, you won't have to necessarily be breaking provinces, but you're probably going to want to be claiming rings.
Yeah, and you're going to want to be fighting each other. I mean, breaking provinces is going to be a viable strategy. Like, if you obviously have more strength on your personalities versus the guy you're playing against, it's probably what you're going to want to do. Especially in mirrors, honestly. Because, I mean, if you can break all 4 of their provinces, then there you go. Sometimes that's what you had to do in the old game. Like, there was a time where I was playing against Phoenix Dishonor in Ivory 1. I was playing Crane, Weenie, Courtier's Honor, and I won military.
Wow.
Yeah, so sometimes you have to do it, and this game obviously encourages you to do it more, because you don't lose all your guys, necessarily. It's not as completely swingy. The spectrum's a lot smaller, 0 to 25, and you get the rings. So just getting the air ring is going to be a big thing for those matchups.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
The more I see, the more I like.
Yep, I'm the same way, man. I just want to see some more of the cards. I want all the cards in my hand now. I want to play with the game. Stop making me like Phoenix.
Just release it now.
So yeah, that's all the L5R news. Looking forward to the fiction next week.
I wouldn't be surprised if it is Crane related, though.
Yeah, especially if they're going to talk Crane fairly soon. So maybe we'll get something about Hotaru.
Yeah, actually, that might be a good point to why they're starting, since she's obviously one of the biggest changes.
Yeah, one of the big new characters. So makes sense.
Actually, I did. This was funny. Totally tangential side story. I was playing on PS4 the other night, and I saw a person running on Destiny on PS4, and I saw a guy running around by the name of Doji Hattori.
Wow. I've never ran into anyone else who's like has an L5R name on anything.
He's obsolete
game-wise.
I did also in Xenoverse one time. I ran into a Bayushi, and he was like in red and black colors, and I was like, oh, okay.
Brilliant.
Yeah, but specifically the fact that he was Doji Hotaru was just like, okay.
Yeah, that's crazy.
There we go.
All right, Mal, what's your topic?
I'm talking about Prey, which is came out last Friday? So
oh, you mean that really awful game that everyone's talking about? I got a 4 out of 10.
No. Yes, I don't know. It is that game, but it's not awful. It has nothing to do with the one from 2006. Best I can tell, Bethesda Software decided to buy the IP because they like the name, I guess.
That's a weird reason to buy something, but
Yeah, because it's named Prey, but it has nothing to do to the original Prey. It's not a sequel or anything.
is it the same kind of gameplay?
Not to my knowledge. It's made by Arkane Studios. They developed it, who also developed Dishonored. I think they even have at least 2 locations. And this is made by the location of this studio was the one that did the first Dishonored, not the second one, even.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a spiritual successor to System Shock from back in the day, which I've even heard people say that if you just threw in Shodan, the big bad from System Shock, it could easily be System Shock 3.
I never played any of those, so...
Also, I've heard it described as Bioshock, Deus Ex, and Dishonored had a baby.
Well, I mean, when you consider that Bioshock itself was a spiritual successor of System Shock.
And they're all what's called an immersive sim, which I actually didn't even know that the genre had a name. But
yeah, I've never heard that name before.
It's from the 90s.
So what is an immersive sim then?
Let's see the exacts. I had them. Looks like I may have closed it. Whoops. So the term comes from the sim part is because there's there's set rules for like physics and stuff. Usually, the game is interactable, which leads to like emergent gameplay. And then the sim is that because you simulate one person instead of like an entire city. Or that's the immersion part of the sim, because it has to be first person. I remember that much, but
per Wikipedia, it says it's a video game. Typically from first-person perspective. Immersive sim may also be used to describe the game design philosophy behind the immersive sim genre, which is it uses interacting, reactive, and consistent game systems to create emergent gameplay and a sense of player agency.
Yeah. So all those games I mentioned before, even Elder Scrolls series and the Bethesda Fallout can be described that way.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I was going to say those games probably fall into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably like, I mean, I didn't know the name, but it's kind of my favorite genre outside of JRPGs. Dishonored and Deus Ex, the new ones, are some of my favorite games.
So it's more, you make the kind of narrative choices, but you also have the way that you want to play the game, I guess.
Yeah.
Is the big thing. Yeah.
The game is about a researcher, Morgan Yu, who, due to some events...
He gets a red eye, right?
Yeah. You end up on a space station infested with alien mimics.
That sounds horrifying.
Yeah, and I mean mimic in the D&D sense. Like, you can be killed by a cup of coffee.
Okay.
Yep.
The station you're on is kind of Metrovania style in that it's just one giant level that it's sealed off by doors that you can unlock later.
Okay.
And you might have to backtrack through.
So
what?
It's almost like Metroid Prime in that sense, I guess, more so, since it's 3D and first person, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I looked up Metroidvania, and it says it's normally 2D, but it can be used.
Okay, so there you go.
But yeah, it emphasizes a giant level, basically, with,
So basically, if you made Fallout a Metroidvania game.
Yeah. I was pretty much hooked in the intro. There's a fly through, and it's got like for the credits and stuff, set to 80s style synth music, which I loved.
Oh yeah, I love 80s.
The soundtrack's pretty great. It's by the guy who did the newest Doom soundtrack.
Oh,
that's a complete 180 almost. Because Doom's all heavy metal and stuff. Basically, it's like thrash metal.
It is, but the
I know they have like the keyboard stuff too, though, right?
Well, but I think the key thing about the new Doom's music was how it very much set the tone for what you were doing. Like you could almost play just by listening to the music, and you would know like when things were happening in certain ways, and kind of how you needed to respond to certain situations.
Yeah. And
so if it's the same guy or team or whatever, I can see that agency still kind of coming into play in that regard as well.
It's like the composition of the score.
Yeah.
The sound design's real good too. Just outside of the soundtrack, just it keeps you good at keeping you tense and stuff.
Do you get like the powers and stuff, kind of like the other? I mean, I know it's not a Bethesda design game, but more their other stuff, or even like the Bioshock games, kind of.
Yeah, sort of like Eventually, you'll you start out, you can unlock like just normal skills, being better with guns or hacking,
Okay.
repair, and then eventually further into the game you have the option to unlock more sci-fi powers, but there's reasons why you might not want to for story purposes.
Okay, gotcha.
It's set in, I guess, like alternate history where Russia ends up building like the first space station very around the time of Sputnik, I think. They're responsible for a failed attempt at assassinating JFK.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to find this out, but it is, I guess, missable. Like, it's in the main hub area. Like, it's this whole, because it's very like discover what you want, or like there's a lot to be discovered, I guess.
But a lot of it you don't have to at any point.
Right. It doesn't really benefit from the just run through approach, which I think also may have hurt some of the reviews.
Like if you want to experience the narrative, basically.
Yeah.
You have to really look for it. Almost like a From Software game.
Lots of environmental storytelling, which I love. Like the corpses you find can tell a story based on what's around them, and even just rooms. I guess there's one room that you go into, and all the items have a sticky note on them, not a mimic. You're looking around, and like whoever set this room up was very paranoid, I guess. And you look over and see something that doesn't have a sticky note, and then, well, you might die.
It's obviously not a mimic. Let me touch it.
I'm just thinking there's so many other traps you could throw in a room like that. Oh my goodness.
But yeah, I just love environmental storytelling, and I think it does a great job of it. The atmosphere, like, it feels like the space station, part of being an immersive sim is that the places are laid out in a more realistic way, not just a video gamey way, I guess you could describe it. It's a prototype, like it's a research lab, so there's lots of prototyping stuff. There's not a ton of conventional weapons, which may be a slight detriment to the actual gameplay, but does make sense for the location you're in, so I don't know.
Yeah. One of the early weapons you get that I love the idea of this is the glue gun.
The goo gun? It's really good for exploring and stuff. Because you can stick platforms to the wall and get up to places where you might not even supposed to be
that's neat.
In a normal video game, I guess, that soon. Like, the game doesn't tell you this is not a safe place, like you're, maybe out of your depth, but you can get there. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's part of the reason why this thing is like, speed run in 10 minutes now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's all just one big level, sort of, like...
Yeah, so you just basically get to the end of the game.
Run, pull lever 1, go run, pull lever 2, go run through the door, and shoot a couple things at the end.
Probably use
like,
some
you
of the
do
guns
have to load through some... You do have to load through some areas, but it's all one contained space station. Yeah, it's like going through and reading emails, like trying to figure out all the... Like, you can figure out the goings-on of different employees based on the emails being sent to one another. It's pretty cool. I love that sort of thing. Like, the game almost shines outside of just doing the normal story stuff, right? Like, the story is okay. It uses a trope I'm not a fan of, but it does a pretty good job of using it, I think.
Is the trope a spoiler?
Kind of. I don't really want to give too much away about the game.
Yeah.
But it's kept me interested. I want to see where it goes.
Yeah, if you like environmental storytelling, then you should probably play Horizon.
Yeah.
I think that's something you'd like a lot about that game, probably the most about it, because you have lots of little people you run into, and you scan them like people from the past, and it'll tell you basically about like the history of the world and all that stuff. So if you like that kind of stuff, there's a lot of it in that game.
The combat is also kind of, I guess, it's okay. It's a little subpar.
It's serviceable.
Yeah, it's not... Like, I'm not going to play this game for its combat, basically.
Yeah.
It's an RPG first and an FPS second, kind of.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I had one of my questions. Is it more shooty or the other way around?
Yeah, like, you can sneak around. You don't even have to get into much combat if you decide to play sneaky.
I bet Mal's been ghosting the whole time.
There isn't actually a ghost achievement. Like, there's no, like... Because, like, Dishonored and... the newer Deus Ex's, they have like kind of a mission wrap up, because it's not the Metroidvania style. It's like there's big open individual levels that you go through and don't necessarily come back to. And so then it'll tell you how often you've been discovered and stuff. This doesn't have that because it's all just one open world.
I don't want to fall back into the weeds of our... This has kind of been a recurring motif in this episode of the podcast. We've been referencing back to some of our old topics. I don't want to fall back in the weeds of like rating systems and stuff, but I did kind of want to get your opinion on the whole Total Biscuit versus IGN. There's another one.
There's two controversies that kind of have been... This game has been wrapped up in. Review-wise.
Why don't you explain them?
I'll mention the first one because it happened chronologically, is that it's Bethesda, starting with Doomed, I think, and then Dishonored 2, and now this. They don't give out early review copies anymore. They don't send them out to these like places.
Yeah, the big review companies.
Yeah, or all the like gaming websites.
And, yeah, YouTubers and all that good stuff.
Well, one of the reasons they cited was to help out like streamers and YouTubers. Because usually you get, like, you send out the review copies to IGN and all the Metacritic people.
Kotaku, all that stuff.
Amusingly, Kotaku is blacklisted from Bethesda because of some leak stuff, I guess, that happened years ago.
Oh, yeah, I remember that now.
Really?
But yeah, so a lot of stuff has been like, was this game hurt by this review policy? Because some people feel like there wasn't a lot of hype for it building up. And is that a lack of, because the reviews didn't come out weeks before the game did and whatnot?
I don't know. It was pretty hyped up from what I mean, not like to this momentous scale, but I saw ads for it everywhere. Like, I mean,
yeah,
that's what I thought when you said I'm playing Prey. I was like, the game with the guy with the red eye, because that's all I saw everywhere was just the picture of the guy with the red eye all over my social media, and people have been excited about it from what I've seen. So
I wonder even how much people are like, I didn't see any ads for it. It's like, well, how much ad block are you using?
Yeah, exactly.
You don't like a lot of people online these days don't like watch TV normal cable, use ad block. Probably like Walmart had some big displays for it, but
I use ad block. I see it everywhere. So.
Yeah.
I know my YouTube would have it a lot on their commercials.
Yeah. And I'm sure Bethesda has like looked at this as a calculated risk. And if it is actually hurting the bottom line, they'll probably reverse it. But it might even just be too soon to tell. Like there were 3 games in, but this is a brand new IP even too. So.
I don't know, man. People love Bethesda, so they're probably fine.
Well, yeah. Well, this is, again, Bethesda software and not the developer, so...
Yeah, but all you gotta do is attach that name to it. It's like me. Most people don't know. I didn't know at first that it was not Bethesda who actually developed the game. They just basically published it, right?
Yep. Yeah, the Bethesda software is the publisher versus Bethesda Studios, I guess, is the developer.
With those headlines, man, they always... Yep. And it's my fault for not reading the stories, obviously, but...
Yeah, that was the first like controversy, I guess, or at least discussion points. Which again, I guess it kind of causes its own discussion, like, and generates more hype, I guess, or even
buzz.
Like buzz. That's it. And then the other one, which you wanna describe?
I'll just kind of sum it up a little bit. Basically, I think the chief editor of reviews at IGN, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I don't follow IGN super closely. He gave the PC version of the game a 4 out of 10 because basically there was a bug in the game. I don't know exactly what the bug did.
It just corrupted his save.
Yeah, so he basically couldn't get through the game. And then Bethesda sent him like a save that was still corrupted, but I guess he got it to work somehow and was able to finish the game.
They sent him a new save. I don't even know if he finished it because that one eventually became corrupted.
So he couldn't play through the game, basically. He gave it like a 4 out of 10. Total Biscuit has like a series of tweets. In his first tweet, he even defended the reviewer, basically saying like, I don't have the exact thing pulled up, but based on my memory that he has the right to do that, and there's basically a bigger problem at large with the gaming industry, kind of for sending out copies of broken games on release date. The IGN guy got defensive about it, and then he had to tweet back. There's just a big hoopla back and forth that happened the other day.
Yeah, so it comes down to do reviews, like what's the point of a review, I guess? Like, is it to show off your experience, or is it to inform, like be more informative to a consumer? Because this is a very narrow bug that barely affects anyone. Should it be...
Wasn't there a day 1 patch that fixed it as well?
No, well, not a day 1 patch, but a patch dropped in the beta 2 hours before the review did, fixing it. So if you did experience this problem, you could go download it and fix it yourself. And I don't know the time. I assume in the next week or so that it'll just be automatic and you won't have to manually fix it. Do you review based on just your experience, or to maybe inform, a consumer of the more probable experience and like your final score at least? What should it reflect? And then I even saw people saying, like, if it was such a big deal, maybe just leave it unscored.
That's what I was saying whenever I ran across the whole controversy when you and I were talking about it. It's basically like, if I was him, I would have just been like, I can't review the game right now because I can't even play it. I can't give the game an honest score. I'm going to inform the public on this is my experience with the game. Here's, the same review. I'm just literally not going to put a score on it and go, I can't review it. So,
because he even, I think, says without this flaw, it'd be a great game.
Yeah.
Or at least a good game. And then another part of Total Biscuit was, so the bug caused you to give it a 4 out of 10, but other games like Dishonored 2, I know, released with a bunch of bugs at launch, and there's another game I can't remember.
Yeah.
You gave like 95s or whatever.
Uh-huh.
It's just you're
being selective,
holding up to your own standards.
Yeah, and this is where it goes back to being consistent. What are you gonna say, Tess?
Yeah, kind of what I was saying when I brought up the topic, whatever episode it was that we were talking about it. Having a layout for your own rubric for your own scoring is so helpful in this regard. Because again, kind of like what you were saying is, are you reviewing it for my experience when I played this now was a 4 out of 10, or are you reviewing it? This game itself, the average consumer experience is going to be a 4 out of 10. And just by having that delineated and very specifically stated, I feel like fixes a lot of these type of problems.
Oh yeah, it just goes to show you another probably smart thing to do for most reviewers now is to say I recommend the game, I don't, for basically anything, and you can kind of like judge it based off what I say, rather than the score. And then for most people, because most people aren't consistent, this arbitrary number suddenly shows up on Metacritic and affects it then, and maybe it hurts the game, and so on and so forth.
Like, lowering the Metacritic can affect people's like bonus stuff, and the way Metacritic's used by the industry, it's just hard.
Yeah, it's rough all around, man. But it sounds like you'd recommend the game. I mean,
yeah, especially if you're a fan of other type immersion sims, I guess. If you're just looking for a straight shooter, maybe not.
This ain't no Call of Duty in space.
Right.
Last time we got some new Bioshock-like games.
Yeah, it sounds to me like Bioshock / Dead Space.
So
Dead Space is what I've been hearing.
System Shock 3, I wouldn't call it quite Dead Space, but System Shock 3 is actually greenlit and being developed, and I think they're going to have it'll be interesting to see how it does now that Prey came out first and whatnot is added to the conversation.
Yeah. Interesting.
We'll have to wait and find out.
Yep.
What's your topic, Tets?
Recently, we had a poll for our monthly modules that we are now doing. Check them out on YouTube. So we had a few options on our poll, and one of our options was for you to fill in the blank. And we had a few games that were suggested to us to play, and I thought I would go ahead and share my thoughts on one of them because I've already played it, called Call of Catthulu. Yes, Call of Catthulu, not Call of Cthulhu. You play regular old house cats trying to prevent the rise of the Elder Ones without the humans finding out. It's pretty much the main core of the game.
I was going to ask, are they like elder dogs?
No, but so actually one of the the Splat books does address the different animals and how they kind of play into it. And dogs are on the side of cats. Pretty much think if it's a like regular person pet type animal, it'll probably be on the side of the humans. There's insects that are obviously with the whatever the god of swarms is in
like sea monsters
Lovecraft.
And stuff.
Yeah, fish usually are heralds of Dagon, that kind of stuff. Well, they don't specifically say Dagon or, any of the named entities from Lovecraft, but who they're talking about. I do think that one of my favorite ones that they mention in that book, it's the arch nemesis of the cats. It is the dark god of the red eye. because sometimes it magically appears on walls, and anytime you try to capture it, it disappears under your paws.
That's hilarious.
And it actually has
That
a
is
note
awesome.
leaving it up to the GM as to whether or not anytime a human uses a laser pointer, if it actually is a true elder deity or if
That's
it's just a
amazing.
cat
So
misunderstanding.
you're actual cats. You're not like anthropomorphic.
Eyes. Yeah,
You're not like
tiny
Redwall.
kid. Yeah, it's not like mouse guard or anything.
no, yeah, you are legit cats, and they even encourage it to try to do what you can, like while playing without not playing without speaking, but anytime like you're narrating your character stuff, you're trying to use very environmentally descriptive words as opposed to, you know, just that way your mind doesn't try to like, yeah, I'm gonna turn and let them know, you know, no, it's I'm gonna turn around, I'm gonna bat at his leg a little bit and see if the human will follow me, and if he doesn't, I'm gonna start meowing loudly, you know, that kind of.
So it's all about
thing.
letting your humans know that they're probably about to go insane.
Yeah, well, or even just doing what you can to save them. One of the what do you call it? Not module, but I guess the short one shots included in the book.
Okay.
The cat saving the world by like wolves and stuff and like causing problems that cats usually do that totally interrupts a cultist ritual. And so because they mess up the ritual because, oh no, they knocked the pot off the shelf that we needed to summon the demon, and now the ashes are not in the perfect place.
Yeah.
And you know, like silly things like
Rolled
that.
yarn across the summoning circle.
Exactly. Or you know, yeah, you know, that kind of a thing. So it's
I want to
silly.
play this now. It sounds really cute.
Yeah, it is really cute. It's really silly. It can also be more serious if you want. One of the modules is pretty intense. It might be a fun one to do for monthly modules. Part of the character design in this game is you get to choose like what kind of cat you are. Instead of having class and race and all that normal stuff that you usually see in RPGs, they have what's called roles and backgrounds. Those are your more classic classes. You have Catraback, which is the cat. You know,
Oh my
that
god,
moves
it's
with
got
great
puns.
skill. Yes, it has so many puns.
Puns.
So the Catraback is the cat that, you know, is like, how did you get up there? You know, you see the videos of the cat that's like sitting on top of a door, you know, that kind of thing. The Pussyfoot, which is the cat that's the spoiled rotten cat who has all kinds of treats and toys and, you know, all that kind of stuff. The Scrapper lives for fighting. The Tiger Dreamer, and as the way that it describes this is, all cats know that they are tigers in disguise. A tiger dreamer has a special connection with the cat's mighty ancestry. This means this cat sleeps a lot, even more than other cats, and in dreams finds answers. So they're the spiritualists. They're the cats that sleep
cat I
even
wanna
more
play.
than normal cats, but by sleeping, they like access the shared memories of the ancestry
That
of
is
all cats.
awesome.
And then the last one is the 2-footologist, because they call humans 2 feet.
Yeah.
And that's the cat that, you know, can jump up and hit a doorknob just right to open a door, you know, or figure out how to open up the fridge and get the fish out of the freezer.
That sounds like the one Mal would play.
I was thinking that.
I'm glad to see all these classes and all this narratively aren't so cattywampus.
Exactly. So the background has two parts to it. You have whether or not you are a mixed lineage or a purebred cat. Choose if you're feral, a house cat, or a show cat. Between those two, and then whatever your role is, you have a archetype essentially.
It's like
Archetypes.
class and race almost, basically.
Yeah, class and race, and then the race has two. But again, feral, house cat, show cat, and mixed or purebred.
Yeah.
So,
If we play this for monthly modules, can I name my cat Wampus?
yes, you can.
Be Kitty Wampus instead of Catty Wampus.
I do like the description for names. It says cat may go by any name, such as the three described by the example, or none at all. In which case, feline peers are sure to hang a don't know what that word is. Holy crap! Big eloquent word for eloquent on the prideful animal. Eloquent name. So as for the noises made by humans, the majority of cats in the history of coexistence have been addressed by the local equivalent of cat, but many a hero finds it acceptable or at least convenient to adopt specific two-footisms, such as Clarissa, Lord Rexington Arculamule of Paddington Meadows, or Mr. Tittles. Still others insist on highly personal bits of braggadocio as Throat Catcher, Shadow Fur, or Leapingest.
Come here, Whiskers. That is amazing.
I love Leapingest. Like, like just I don't know, it just makes me laugh. Leapingest.
So can your cat character go mad?
Yes. So the way that this handles conflicts or
And second question, is there catnip in the game, and how does it work? If so,
I'm sure there is. It's a little bit more narrative oriented. The whole of the book itself is all of 30 pages, and I think 20 of that is just describing the different classes. And as far as the rules go, you roll 2d6s, and if you get a 3, 4, 5, or 6, it's a success. If you get a 1 or a 2, it's a 3 to 6 is good for the cat, and a 1 to 2 is bad for the cat. As a GM, if I were to roll, I want 1 or 2 because the 1 and the 2 means bad for the cat. 3 through 6 is good for the cat. So statistically speaking, it is in the player's favor. It's in the cat's favor.
Always.
Most contests will be.
yeah.
Ways to kind of adjust things, and like sometimes you might only roll 1d6, and then there's a way to get 3d6.
Okay. So do you have like skills and stuff like that, and that does give you more d6?
No, so really what it comes down to is there's what they call the right cat for the job. And what that means is that essentially whatever cat makes sense in his description and his backstory and all the stuff he's done, that he would be the one that would be able to accomplish whatever task you're trying to do. That cat counts one of his dice as a success. It doesn't matter if he rolls 2 failures, one of them will still be considered a success.
Okay.
But there's what they call dire challenges. And in a dire challenge, only the right cat for the job can try to perform it. The other cats cannot at all. But there's still a chance, dire challenges. And then, but even if they fail, they can spend glory and make a glorious attempt. So they get to roll an additional cat dice. But in order to do that, you have to give up 1 of your 9 lives. So that's kind of how they weave that into there. So you can have a total of 9 of these glorious attempts.
That is awesome. So basically, like, if you're the stray cat, you're obviously going to be the one who's probably the scrapper, and therefore you're going to have getting the dire challenge, like if there's like a pack of dogs or something, and probably the prissy, like, pampered cat's going to be the one who's not going to be fodder.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they still can fight and stuff, but they're going to, they're not going to be the right cat for the job. Again, the roles, though, so I know you said feral scrapper, but you can still be like a feral pussyfoot, and they call that pitiful beggar. So, it's the one kitten that, you're walking down an alleyway and the kitten just comes out and just looks up you for food, even though it's this feral cat, you walk up and pick it up and take it with you to go give it food, and it's happy, type deal. So it's really cute. It's really silly. But again, it is Lovecraftian, so you can get pretty dark with it. As I said, one of the modules is pretty interesting, but yeah, it's fun. I ran it with my wife and one of our friends and his wife, and we had a blast playing it. So I definitely recommend it, at least to check it out.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do this for a monthly module eventually, just because it sounds so funny and goofy. Or you could even go dark with us if you want to. It's probably what Meta would like more.
Well, I mean, it's Lovecraft.
Me too, possibly. I'm not a huge fan of the silly stuff.
I don't know. I'm a fan of having things silly and dark because you can do it. It's possible. I feel like if there's anything that's going to let you do it, it's this.
Mal, it's a game about being a kitty cat.
Yeah.
Come on, bud. I thought you liked the silly stuff.
Not my RPGs.
Well, I just completely misjudged you, sir, and for that I apologize. With all the running overheads and
I live my
charging
life
constantly.
silly. I don't want to RP it.
Fair enough. You want to live vicariously through your character for that brief moment of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Live life as a cat lost in the... I don't remember the name of the other realm. I'm going to call it now then. Mal will be the one to embrace his insanity.
It's interesting. And again, the way that they handled the Elder Gods, it's more like animals are kind of the emissaries of them. And so humans have kind of like lost their ability to sense when impending doom is coming because we're not tied in with nature in the same kind of way. again, there's a lot you can do with it, and there's a lot you can play around with.
I like that aspect because it makes more sense, obviously, that you're not going to be like cats getting involved with old ones and stuff like that. It's more like their avatars.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
like a flock of ravens or something like that. Or the
Exactly,
fish,
yeah.
like we were saying before. That's pretty neat. I like that.
And I mean, like, in most Lovecraft media anyway, that's the way it is. A lot of times you're not dealing directly with the Elder Ones. You're dealing with their emissaries, with their
Cultists and stuff.
cultists and their heralds and all that kind of stuff. This is kind of the same way, but it lets you treat other animals as the heralds as much as the Bloodspeaker cult next door. So you can kind of balance both. In fact, it usually encourages that. Like, just because you're a cat, you're trying to prevent this ritual that humans are doing, but part of your challenge is overcoming like a wall of flies, or something like that. So it kind of lets you mix in both.
The scum of the earth that is the tick. Swarm
Yeah.
of ticks that come after your cats.
Yeah, that's creepy. Just
Yeah,
all
I had to
scuttling,
pick a
just
tick off my cat the other day, so
waves
tell
of
me about
them.
it. Yeah, suck all your blood out.
Small bounding fleas.
Sounds like the kind of game that we need to play.
Agreed.
I want Mal to running overhead in that game too. Alright, let's get to my topic to close this out here. Last Thursday night, I went and saw a movie that a lot of people have probably seen by now. Talking about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
I've not.
Tets has not seen it. Mal has, though. Just like Power Rangers, we're not going to spoil the movie, really. Both for Tets and for people in the audience who might not have seen it. So, obviously, this is the new entry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. A sequel to the first Guardians of the Galaxy. That is not about an Infinity Stone. We got a Marvel movie that's part of the MCU, but not really tied to the big narrative we got going on. No real references to Thanos other than, like, brief throwaway lines from, I believe, Nebula or Gamora.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I don't really need the tie.
I wonder if it was... I don't know. I wonder if it may have been more of a detriment.
Let me give the synopsis first, then I guess we'll get into this. You got the Guardians. They're assembled to do this job for a race of people called the Sovereign. They got to protect these, basically, power sources. These small little batteries that are very... I don't know if they're rare, but they're expensive. They're worth a lot. I guess the Sovereign used them to power their home world or whatever. So they basically hired the Guardians to protect it from a giant space slug thing. I don't know how the space slug got there. Did they ever explain that in the movie?
Nah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. They're fighting a giant slug at the beginning. It's the beginning action scene. So they beat it. Rocket Raccoon ends up stealing some of the batteries. The Sovereign obviously find out about it. They chase after them. The Guardians, basically their ship gets shot down. They get stranded on this deserted planet. After that, the leader of the Sovereign that goes to hire the Ravagers and talks to Yondu, who was Peter Quill's basically not father, but like not even adopted father, but I guess father figure. He's the one who kidnapped Peter from Earth and kind of raised him.
Yeah, he's the blue guy from the original one.
He's Merle
With the
from
whistling.
Walking Dead.
Yep.
Yeah, he has the arrow that he powers with the little fin on top of his head. She hires them to go hunt down the Guardians. They obviously still have bad blood from the end of the last movie where they stole the Infinity Stone out from under Yondu's nose. They go off to hunt down Peter. While they're crash landed on this planet, Peter happens to come across his father, whose name's Ego. If you know anything about the Marvel Comics, he's Ego, the living planet. Basically, the story goes on from there. It's only towards the end that it becomes kind of a huge planetary universe-wide, like, we gotta save the galaxy again kind of thing. It's a very personal, small, very character-driven narrative.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I feel like it kind of just like switched at some point, and it was not the most well done.
Towards the end, it definitely ramps up more towards the... Now suddenly I have to save the galaxy again. I like the more smaller stuff. I think you can obviously tell that this movie... Because James Gunn's the director of the movie. I believe he wrote the script, too. You can tell that he had his hands on the movie for the most
he did
part.
the first one.
Yeah, you can tell, like, he had, like, creative control over it. Whereas, obviously the Avengers movies are... Someone writes a script for it, but you can tell, like, 15 people have their hands on those movies, right? Because they're kind of especially the second one, it's very all over the place, tonally inconsistent. There's no real big character arcs in the movies. Whereas this one, all their arcs are tied together. I mean, everyone wraps up in a neat bow. They didn't feel forced to tie it to the whole Infinity War stuff.
The other movies have the benefit of having their own, like Iron Man has his own movies, Thor has his own movies, Captain America.
Yeah.
So these guys don't. They kind of have to get a lot done in their own movie.
They do, but I think they did it well.
Yeah.
I liked everyone's arc.
I liked the movie. I don't like everyone's arc, I guess. I think Drax gets kind of Flanderized, which is the trope named after Flanders, who just becomes more and more nonsensical and religious as the Simpsons go on. They just kind of focus in on that. He's just so silly, and they just focused on that. Not Drax being he's so silly in this one, and not in any way a warrior like he's supposed to be. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he was less... Yeah, because in the first movie, he was more about, obviously avenging the death of his family. So he had the whole tie to Thanos, essentially, because Thanos was the one who killed his family in the movies. In this one, he wasn't really as focused on that. His whole kind of arc was more about, Mantis a little bit.
I guess.
It
didn't feel that great to me. And, most of his jokes are the same joke, played a different way.
Well, they didn't do the metaphor thing, really, that much again in this movie. Where it was the metaphors go over my people's head.
Yeah, well, I mean, that sort of thing, him being culturally unaware, is people found it so funny, that's all he is in this one. It's just played up so much. That was one of the worst parts for me, I think.
I liked it, though. I don't know, Drax is one of my favorite
I still liked
characters.
The movie.
Yeah.
I liked the movie, but I don't really like Drax in this one. He was just rendered down to a joke.
Who are your favorite characters in this one, then?
In this one, you say it's character driven, but it's kind of only a certain amount of characters really shine through. I really like Yondu, Rocket, Groot. He's funny, but he doesn't do a whole lot. There's not really character development so much because he's a baby.
Yeah, it's more just him being a baby, basically.
Peter is my favorite, but he doesn't really get any character development in this one, just character resolution, I feel. You leave the movie with the same Star-Lord that you came into the movie with.
I don't know.
He really feels kind of almost just a plot item in the movie.
It's hard to talk about without spoiling anything, his arc, because it's what most of the whole thing is tied into.
Yeah, but I don't feel like he develops any.
I would disagree. His whole arc is basically, he kind of wants to know more about where he came from, obviously. He comes across his father. It's more about realizing who his actual kind of parents are, who made him who he actually is, and kind of getting over that part holding him back.
They don't really show any change with that, though. I don't feel like. At least maybe they just didn't do it well enough for me.
Yeah, I think we just disagree there. It's basically more the way he acted, especially towards the end of the movie, is where I get kind of his arc from. It's the whole we show it to you, not tell kind of thing.
I don't know. I see the same Star-Lord, honestly.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's still goofy and a little bit, and kind of a Han Solo-esque, roguish,
maybe
devil
they were
may
too
care
afraid
guy.
to change too much because that's such a popular archetype. But I don't know. I didn't really see any change myself.
It's hard to talk about without spoiling things specifically. So, no, I agree that Yondu and Rocket had the biggest arcs, though, and they were the most interesting characters. Their whole, because basically in the movie the characters get split up, right? You got Quill and Gamora and Drax and Manus go off with Ego, and then you have Yondu and Nebula and Rocket basically all interact with each other. Baby Groot too.
Right.
They obviously had the real more noticeable arc, more obvious to the audience, obviously.
Definitely.
Because and I like that everyone's arc was kind of tied together, because it was more about everyone finding a place where they belong, was the whole kind of theme of the movie. That's why I think it was so strong, is a character focused kind of thing. Because, I mean, the first movie is obviously about how does the team get together. We have to have them fight this really uninteresting enemy. I don't even really remember, most of the last half of the movie. And I've seen it 3 times. I remember that there's the dance thing, they hold hands, and they shoot stuff in the sky. There's nothing really strong character moments towards the end of the movie. Whereas this, I just felt it was strong throughout on that end. I will say, though, that the first movie was a little bit more fun. You know, it had that kind of like more popcorny. It's more Marvel movie than this movie is. I felt like
they played it safe with this movie. They didn't really change a whole lot. Like the original one was so different from the rest of the Marvel movies. This one kind of played it a little more safe.
Yeah.
Without, like changing much up.
I don't know. I think they didn't because they went with this whole different kind of smaller scale kind of thing. And it's weird because critics are more down on it than I think people who are actually watched the movie.
Oh, are they? I haven't.
Really I think it's got like a 60 something on Metacritic. Which I'm kind of surprised. But
I don't know. I felt it was more of the same. I mean, yeah, there was character development, but like I don't know, it kind of followed the same beats along the way, I guess.
Well, you got to give the audience, something similar but different, right?
Mm-hmm.
So obviously Drax is still going to be kind of silly. Since it's not involving Thanos, it's hard to really tie in like his family struggles and all that stuff into the plot. And I think we disagree on me liking Thanos and not being in the movie and you wanting it to tie in a little bit more.
I feel like they really should at this point. Like they're kind of ramping up towards the final act of these Marvel characters and stuff. I think even James Gunn said there's only going to be one more of these Guardians that at least he's on board for. And like with the whole Infinity War coming up, feels like maybe they should have tied it in a little more.
That movie is the one I'm nervous about. I don't know how it's going to work with all these characters.
Yeah, well, it's 2 movies, I think.
Well, I know that, but still, you're gonna.
I think the first one was even going to be more focused on Thanos himself.
Yeah, it's going to be just lots of people punching each other, which is exciting to me, really.
I don't know. I could see the first one going through and showing Thanos, like, being more focused on Thanos himself and showing what he's up to and how he gets things done to lead to the big conflict.
But it's going to...
I'm curious to see if Lady Death will show up.
It's going to shoehorn in everyone, though, right?
Yeah,
they're going to show up.
At least by the end, yeah.
Yeah.
Or the second movie may be even worse of that than the first.
Be interesting if Lady Death shows up. And I was just sounding that I think that.
Yeah. Well, I bet she will because I think there's the line in one of the post-credit scenes for one of the movies. It's just like to court death. I think that's what Thanos says, something about courting death. So you'll probably see her.
But I guess my thing is because there's the whole weird love triangle between those two, and with Deadpool, with Deadpool being Fox.
That's not necessarily like that doesn't come into it right away though. When Deadpool comes into it later,
Deadpool's owned by Fox anyway, so it's not going to be in these movies. But
my point specifically is that he wouldn't be. So it'd be interesting if they bring her in.
Another thing I liked about the movie was Ego himself.
Well, yeah, Kurt Russell's just a national treasure.
Yeah, like he was good. It was good to have basically him being like the crux of the plot and it being tied so closely to a character, whereas the other movies, other than like really honestly Winter Soldier, where you have kind of Bucky's relationship with Cap being so like integral to the plot, and that's kind of what pushes it along. That's the reason why I think it's an actual good sequel. Whereas the Avengers 2 it is all right, Thor 2 was all right, Iron Man 2 was all right. It's more just like
sequels are hard.
Yeah, it's more villain of the week, right?
Lightning model of any original success.
Those are more villain of the week, right? So I think this Marvel.
I think a lot of people says the Marvel series' biggest flaw are the villains.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say the villain of this movie was, but I think he's one of the better villains they've had, especially for a sequel movie. I don't know. I think that's the strengths of it. I recommend it highly. I think it's.
I still recommend it. I love the first one so much. I ended up being very critical of something I wanted more out of. I think.
Yeah, I like this one story-wise way better than the first one. But I think they're pretty much even. Because the first one did have a certain charm and fun about it that it's kind of hard to put into words. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I think this one's about equal. Winter Soldier is still probably like the best sequel in the whole MCU.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
That's another good example of taking a risk with these movies is the origin story. Here's how Captain America came to be. He fights the villain, and there you go. And they took that and basically, with the second movie, made a spy movie. So they experimented with different genres and had a more personal, character-driven story. This one kind of does the same thing a little bit. It just has more characters that they have to cover. So,
yeah.
I thought Baby Groot was going to annoy me more than he did. He didn't really annoy me that much. I thought he was going to be overused.
Regrets him, I think I read.
he regrets him.
Yeah, or at least how he'll be used in marketing. He wanted to just fast forward a couple years to not have Baby Groot.
Yeah.
But he realized there was too much he wanted to say, that you couldn't skip over. So he ended up having to do it pretty much immediately after the timeline right after the first one.
So glad that Baby Groot wasn't overused, and he wasn't like stealing the spotlight really when he was funny or anything like that. And I'm really excited for Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be taking a lot of cues from the original Guardians.
And some Planet Hulk stuff with Hulk in the movie.
I just meant for the feel of the movie.
Oh,
based
yeah,
on
yeah,
the trailer, at least.
It has a very old school movie.
Yeah, well, they're definitely playing up 80s stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
That Zeppelin. Also, another thing about Guardians, I really like the soundtrack, and I love me some Fleetwood Mac.
Oh, yeah. Both soundtracks are really good. I like the Fox on the Run song, so...
Yeah, I've also seen some articles about like how the cosmic side of Marvel is their future.
What's the group of... They're not the Celestials. You know what I'm talking about?
The Watchers?
Yeah, they could do stuff with them. Obviously, keep doing Guardian stuff, because people love those movies.
I mean, we'll see if Captain Marvel is an interesting hero in that she's kind of half and half. Like, she spends time on Earth and in the cosmic side of things.
Yeah, if they get back Fantastic Four, they could do stuff with them, too.
Yeah, so we'll see.
They hinted at another character that I'm not going to spoil either in one of the end credits, so...
Oh, yeah.
Even Doctor Strange could do kind of more cosmic stuff, too.
Well, yeah, I think it counted him in, like, the cosmic in that it wasn't the Earth. It wasn't limited to just Earth problems.
Yeah.
But it's, like, large-scale
cosmic
stuff.
in the sense of it being dimensional hopping.
Yeah.
Yeah, things beyond the physical realm of Earth. Looking forward to where it goes. And getting all this Thanos stuff over with. So, see what they do from there. Alright, that's been episode 9 of Podcast of 5 Rings. Again, your source of enlightenment in the realm of video games, tabletop, anime, film, and tech. Each episode of Podcast of 5 Rings releases Monday mornings on iTunes and SoundCloud, and now topic by topic, day by day on YouTube, with the full video releasing on Friday. Our Twitter is at Podcast5R. We have a Facebook page, P5R Podcast. Our YouTube videos, thank you to everyone who subscribed to us on YouTube, by the way. We hit 100 subscribers on there a lot faster than I thought we would. Woo! And now we have our URL, so thank you very much to all of you who've subscribed to us. And that is Podcast of 5, the number 5, Rings. Also, be sure to check out Meta. He's been streaming a lot of Neo still. He got his Platinum the other day.
Yeah, I was watching.
Maybe he'll move on to some more Kingdom Hearts if you want to see that mess. His stream is twitch.tv/PSOflow. This is Obsidian signing out. We'll see you guys next week with L5R fiction discussion.
See ya.
Bye.